Okay, so the obviously the past two days, I mean yesterday and starting off today, we're beginning with I shouldn't say beginning, but we're continuing really with all the hachanas that we've been making for the Kabbalah Torah, different angles on what Shavuos is all about, themes relating to Kabbalah Torah, to Torah in general, and we were going to do. Today, Emir Hashem and Be'ezer Hashem is to focus on a very, I think, really very fundamental, basic topic, which is really what exactly the concept of Talmud Torah, Torah LiShma in particular, is all about. In other words, we spend a lot of time celebrating our schus that we have to learn as B'nai Torah, as B'nai Yeshiva. We love learning. We are learning all the time. And we don't always necessarily have a chance to actually stop and think and focus on, okay, so what is that idea, like what are we supposed to be doing when we're involved with the actual Talmud Torah itself. So for example, I also apologize, there's no like official Marmakomo sheet on this year. I'll tell you where all the Makoros are. They're very, very basic things that you can look up, and you don't have, I'm sure you have access to to everything. More or less, the basics, wherever you might be, very, very simple, straightforward things. So for example, like we know that there is a very famous mission, Pirkei Avos, in the beginning of Perek Vav. That's the Perek, the last Perek of Pirkei Avos. So we did this Perek Shabbos. That's the Perek that's called Kinyan Torah. It speaks about Torah, about Talmud Torah. So Rabbi Meir Omer, Kol Osek b'Torah l'Shma, Zoche l'Devarim Harbe. A person who's Osek b'Torah l'Shma, person who's involved with learning LiShma, he's a zoche l'devarim harbe. Okay, and then the Mishnah goes on and says, "V'lo od," and not only that, there are a lot of different things. Kol olam kulo kedai lo. The entire bria sa'olam was really, was kedai just for that one person who's learning LiShma. He's called a reya, an ohuv, oivesamakum, etc. And the Mishnah gives a whole massively long list of zechuyos that the person who learns Torah LiShma is zoche to. So it's very, very clear that the Chazal are telling us that there's some maila, there's some like madrega that a person can be on that's called, learning LiShma, Torah LiShma. And we're going to try to explore what exactly that means. There's a Gemara in Tainus, and many of the guys learned, Tainus during the Bahari Binah programs. There you go. Oh, Gary Lambert, there you go. And I gotta say, I was thinking of this morning. I had to walk from my house to the area of the yeshiva this morning, and I was thinking about those jogs we used to have, and how the crazy thing is that basically the furthest distance I've even walked since you guys left yeshiva, and we've just been sitting here doing like average like just in your house for 2.5 months. It was like a difficult walk, and halavai we should be able to be zochah to be running. Even though I was pretty bad at it back then, but we should be zochah to do that again soon. So the Gemara says in Daf Zayin in Tainus that Tanya Rabbi Bana Omer that Kol Osik b'Torah l'Shma Torah so nasa so sam hachayim. A person who learns Torah l'Shma, the Torah becomes a sam hachayim, and a potion or a medicine of life for that person. Shneimar eitz chayim hi l'machazikim ba. So we're going to try to focus on what exactly the concept of Torah l'Shma actually is. Let's point out that before we get into the particulars of what we're going to be speaking about, there's a Rashi on that Gemara who points out in Tainus that Lishma means Mishum Kasher Tzivani Hashem Elokai. When the person realizes that I'm learning because Hashem commanded me to, that's Torah Lishma. Below Kedei Lihikaros Rebbe, and the Rashi says the opposite of Torah Lishma is if I learn in order to be called a Rebbe or to get kavod out of that learning, that's not Lishma. From learning because it's a mitzvah, that's called Lishma. There's another Gemara we're going to discuss as we go along, but just to throw out very quickly, a Gemara in the Daram and Daf Samach Beis, where the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer Reb Tzadik Omer, Asay Devarim L'Shem Pa'alam, you should do things. The Pashas says it means do the mitzvahs, the way the Rishonim explain in the Gemara. Do the mitzvahs, L'Shem Pa'alam, for the sake of I'm going to roughly translate it. He who commanded us to do those mitzvos, v'daber b'hem l'shmam, and speak in them, talk about the mitzvos, meaning talk and learning l'shmam. Okay? Then the Gemara gives like also, it sounds like a counter, like the opposite of that. You should talk and learn in LiShma. Al tasei matar lihizgadel behem. Don't make Torah like a crown to make yourself big and great. Al tasim kordom lihios odebro. Don't make the Torah into a shovel to dig with. In other words, your Torah learning shouldn't be for quote unquote other purposes. I want to get something out of it. I want to be a good guy. I shouldn't be learning. I speak in contemporary terms, so I should be able to get a good shidduch. I shouldn't be learning so that I get going to classes. For one more year. Why not? I'll go back. I shouldn't be learning because for any other reason other than I'm supposed to. It's mitzvah to be learning. But the truth is, the various mefarshim take that comment, the idea of LiShma, like Rashi says, Kasher Tzivani Hashem Elokai, and then the opposite of LiShma, when you're learning Torah for what the Gemara calls these bad reasons, and a Torah he's got about that I'm going to use the Torah to bring myself some personal kavod or aggrandizement. So the various mefarshim, as time was going on, spent a lot of time trying to actually figure out what exactly is included in that. What does that mean? I should learn kasher tzivani Hashem alakai, like Hashem told me to. What exactly did the Rebbeinu Shalom want from us, and what was He demanding of us when He told us that we're supposed to be spending such an incredible amount of time involved and engaged in Asek Torah? So what is that? It's a very, very simple and basic question. Again, we know that tzivui, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, is all encompassing, right? B'shivtecha b'veisecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, b'shochvecha u'v'kumecha. You're supposed to be learning all the time, right? And then that's in terms of quantity. In terms of quality, remember the pasuk we also say in Kriya Shema, v'shinantam. You're supposed to have Torah be mishunanim. You're supposed to have Torah be crystal clear. And the Gemara points out in Kiddushin, all right, again, some of you guys also in Kiddushin last year. So the Gemara points out in Kiddushin that you're supposed to have Torah so crystal clear in your mouth that im yishalcha adam, if someone comes and asks you a question, al tegamgem b'tomer. Don't even hesitate for a second. Tomer lo, just be able to answer him, right away. In other words, so the quality and the clarity of our learning has to be really, really high. The quantity of how much learning, it's all encompassing. V'higisa bo yoma v'layla on a pasha level. Again, remember the Or Sameach who points out in the beginning of Hilchos Talmud Torah, in the Gra, in the Shnos Eliyahu, in the first parak and first Mishnah, Masechta Peah, right, that Talmud Torah is something you're supposed to be doing literally 24/7, except for all of the accepted exceptions to that rule. So you gotta eat, you gotta sleep, you have to do mitzvahs, you make a parnasa, etc. There are legitimate things that we do that are not learning, but whenever we're not doing any one of those things, our life is supposed to be devoted to the pursuit of happiness, which of course means the pursuit of Talmud Torah, because there's nothing more happy Ashreinu Matov Chalkeinu than a Jew who's sitting involved in learning Torah. Nothing more happy, than that. But yet the Gemara points out there's this madrega that's called learning Torah LiShma, and that's what we're going to try to figure out what that is. We're not going to talk about this today, but I'm just going to throw it out. And the only time we're going to throw it out is let's also, of course, remember the famous teaching of Chazal that the Olam Yasok, Adam Torah Mitzvahs Afilu Shelo LiShma, Shemitoch Shelo LiShma, Baal LiShma. Even if we don't actually, after today's great shiur, rise up to the occasion and start doing Torah LiShma in a total way. But the bottom line is the Gemara does point out that that's okay. Learn Torah even if it's low LiShma. And eventually we'll get there. So we just want to know really today, what are the sights that we're setting for ourselves? What are the goals that we're going to have? And maybe every once in a while, to even, touch upon that, madrega of Torah LiShma. So what exactly is that? So what on the title of this year, we call this the Great Debate. There's a very, very famous discussion, really, and Mamamish had a debate between two of the great thinkers in the past 2 centuries. One of them was the Baal HaTanya, the first Rebbe of the Chabad Hasidim, and the other one was Chaim Vohlozhiner in his Sefer the Nefesh HaChaim. Chaim Vohlozhiner, of course, was representing, if you have to look at this as a boxing match or a wrestling match, in the one corner you have one of the clearest thinkers and clearest writers in the Hasidic world, because the Sefer HaTanya is 100% the clearest, most systematic exposition of what all the basic derech of Hasidus, is all about. And then, of course, you have the Nefesh Chaim, who is representing the world of yeshivos, and we call traditional, Masorah, traditional Yiddishkeit, before the change that the Hasidim had brought about. And Chaim Vohlozhiner also wrote about this idea of Torah LiShma. And the truth be told, as we're going to see, he actually was specifically, and he like spells it out just without naming names. He did it in a very Kabbalistic way, but was specifically referring to some ideas that were discussed amongst the Hasidic thinkers, and proceeds to argue upon them and take issue, to ask, and then of course develop his own, not really his own, it's based on Chazal, because in our world we base things on Masorah, etc. But the truth is both sides of this discussion actually are rooted in earlier sources, as we're going to point out as well. And the truth be told, let's call a spade. For all of us, I think it's fair to say Elo ve'elo divrei Elokim Chaim, and a person should strive to have a little bit of, or a lot of, both of the two different approaches that we're going to speak about this morning in terms of our learning, because they're both good and they're both true. But I am going to try to highlight and accentuate, as we're going along, certain, maybe we'll call them practical differences between the approaches to what Torah LiShma is, that maybe could help us in terms of getting more of a chizuk in our own learning. Now, if you remember, or I'm not sure if you know this even to remember this, but I'll say, if you remember from some of your studies of Hasidic history, so you know that the Baal HaTanya came about in the third generation of the Hasidic Rebbe's. In other words, there was the Baal Shem Tov, right? After the Baal Shem Tov, you had the Maggid of Mizrich, or the Mezrich or Maggid, and then after the Maggid, you had a number of big Talmidim. Misham Yipari LaArba Rashim. There were four main Talmidim of the Maggid. One of them was the Baal HaTanya. But so all of the ideas that the Baal HaTanya speaks about are not really his own, right? At least in terms of, certainly in terms of this area, were not his own, like that he was Machadesh this, but these were the things that he was receiving from his Rebbe, from the Maggid and from the Baal Shem Tov, one Rebbe, back and previously. That's why the things that we're going to speak about and attribute to the Baal HaTanya today, the truth is are really spoken about in numerous Svarim in the Hasidic world, in the early Svarim of the Hasidim. So, for example, there's a famous sefer called the Toldos Yaakov Yosef, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polanya, and that was one of the earliest Svarim. He was actually a Talmud Chaver, a contemporary of the Baal Shem Tov, a contemporary and a Chaver, but also a Talmud. And so he quotes, many different ideas are found in the Toldos that come from the Baal Shem Tov, and the ideas that we're going to speak about now, very clearly are spoken about in the Toldos. Also, amongst other Svarim, some of the other Rebbes, again, in the door right before the Baal HaTanya, Rabbi Chio Michal Zlotchever, discusses, the concepts of Torah LiShma as well as the Yoshe Divrei Emes. And but let's talk for now about the Baal HaTanya, and then we'll go on and speak some more about we'll speak some more. I'm going to quote from some of the Svarim also, but then we'll speak about the Chaim Vohlozhiner after that. The main place where the Baal HaTanya speaks about, at least for us right now, where the Baal HaTanya speaks about this idea of Torah LiShma is found in Perek A of the Sefer the Tanya. Okay, I'm going to read you a couple of lines from the Tanya right now. If Viggie's still here, so Viggie might remember, maybe if Eli Harris is around, we remember these from our chavrusas back in the day, on Troy Bruces, whatever they were back in the day, on Wednesdays. Well, let's read a little bit over here. Again, I'm not going to go into the background of like what was exactly being discussed in the Sefer. Let's just talk about what it says. I'm going to read you the lines about Torah LiShma over here, and that's like this. One second. I'm going to add this. if you are looking inside or do look inside, you notice I just want to be, for the sake of honesty, I'm going to be skipping certain sentences just to make, to focus on the idea of Torah LiShma, and not all the things that he's discussing in this particular parak over here. If a person grasps a halacha that he learns in a Mishnah or a Gemara properly and clearly, the Baal HaTanya explains that his seichel, when a person chaps that idea, I got it, I have it, I know it in my mind, I have it clear. So that person's seichel, as he describes, on the one hand, is surrounding, envelops that concept in Torah that he has, and his seichel is also expressed through that particular concept that he now understands and can talk about, etc. And halacha zuhi chachmaso uritzono shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Baal HaTanya writes that halacha that the person is learning is the chachma, is the wisdom, is the ratzon, is the desire, the will of Hashem Himself. Sha'ala b'ritzono kishayiton Ruven kach v'kach derech mashal v'shimon kach v'kach. The Rebbeinu Shalom had it in his mind that when he gives an example, Ruvain says this, and Shimon says that back. Yeah, psak b'neim kach v'kach. The psak is going to be, whatever it is. Again, just to use an example of a Gemara that many of you are probably in the middle of learning right now, right? Manali b'yadacha. That's one taina. The other guy taina is back a counter taina, eini odeya, right? Then you have a machlokas in the Gemara of Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Nachman. What's the din? Do you say bari b'shama bari adif? Do you say buki memona b'chezkas mari? So all of that discussion, the Baal HaTanya explains, that's all the ratzon and the chachma of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And even if there's never an actual court case that particular taina and counter taina appear in, but nevertheless, because it's a ratzon Hashem, again, we're building up to a high, you need the introduction to get to the point, because the Rebbeinu Shalom decided in his infinite chachma that this is what the psak should be in that theoretical case. So when the person grasps that in his mind, when he understands that part of Torah, what that person in essence is doing at that moment is grasping and becoming attached to and connected to the intellect and the desire of the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. Because the truth is, we can never, with our minds, actually grasp and fathom and understand the real deal about the Rebbeinu Shalom, if not through the vehicle, the medium of the different halachos that are found there in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, in the halacha, etc. And who yichud nifla she'en yichud kamohum v'lo ke'erko nimsa klau b'gashmiyos lios achadim yuchadim mamish mikol tzad upina. And says the Baal HaTanya, that union, the unity that's created between me and the Rebbeinu Shalom, when I grasp that bit of wisdom of the Rebbeinu Shalom, as just to I'm going to reread the words again, that's a yichud that's nifla, that's unreal, ein kamo, and you can't ever mimic that. It can't be replicated in any other type of yichud between any other two physical things that are there. He explains, we should be yediyas haTorah melubeshes benefesh adam b'sichla mukefes b'socha. When a person learns the Torah and he knows something that he learns, okay, so his nefesh and his seichel is now connected to that piece of Torah. He speaks about an idea that we were just learning in the Nefesh of Chaim last Sunday, that the Torah is called the lechem and gashmi. The lechem hagashmi is zon es aguf kishemachnisa b'socha v'kirba mamish. Just like the physical bread is the thing that sustains the person when he eats the food. So in Ruchnius we have the same exact thing. Kach b'yediyas haTorah v'hasagasa. Listen carefully now. When the person understands and comprehends the Torah, b'iyun sichla, with analyzing things with his mind, and that person becomes one with that Torah that he learned. And again, just to explain, when we use the expression the person becomes one with the Torah that he learned, right now that doesn't mean anything metaphysical, mystical, spooky. All that means is when I now understand something and I have it in my mind, right? And that's a part of my makeup that's there, right? My being that's there. So I am one with it. That's become something that's part of me at this stage in the game. And he quotes as follows. He quotes a passage from the Eitz Chaim of Reb Chaim Vital. The Torah is the mazon, that is the sustenance, the food that keeps our nefesh going when we learn in Torah LiShma. LiShma hainu k'dei lakashir nafsho l'Hashem aydei hasagas haTorah ish kefi sichlo. And LiShma means that I'm learning for the sake of being makashir, of tying myself, attaching myself to Hashem through the medium of understanding the Torah, each person according to his intellectual ability, like it says in the Sefer, the pre-Eitz Chaim. Okay? In other words, right, what we just learned over here, the Baal HaTanya, just to summarize very quickly, is that the idea, according to the Baal HaTanya and many of the other Hasidic greats, of learning Torah LiShma is to accomplish what he calls the kesher, or the dveikos, that a human being can have on the most sublime and deep and real level with the Ribono Shalom. So in other words, if I'm going to say I want to put on tefillin in the morning, right, which hopefully we've all done already by now, so I did something, right, and you can certainly say I fulfilled the will of a Kadosh Baruch Hu by doing that act, okay, but right, the tefillin and me did not become one and the same. I wore a tefillin, I shook a lulav, right? And so on and so forth, right? But the maisa that I do, the action that I do, is what we're going to call external action. When the person on the other hand is able to use his mind to understand and comprehend divrei Torah, right? So now that the Torah, it became part of that person's mind and mindset and so on and so forth, that, right, accomplishes a dveikos, a kesher between that person and the Ribono Shalom, as he calls it, a yichud nifla she'ein kamohu, okay? And the purpose or the goal of my engagement in learning, I'm learning Torah LiShma for its sake, for the right reason. The Baal HaTanya explains means that I'm learning the Torah that's there for the sake of creating that bond and creating that kesher with the Ribono Shalom. If I want to be makushar, if I want to be attached to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, if I want to have a teveikos with the Ribono Shalom, and the only way to actually do that is through learning, right? Is through the Torah learning that I bring into my mind and comprehend the chachma of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to refer to something that the Baal HaTanya writes slightly before the parak that we had just learned, where he quotes another Maimer Chazal. It's actually paraphrased from a Rambam, Hu Hamada, Hu HaYodeya. The Rambam writes that the Ribono Shalom has this very, very funky property where he's both the knowledge and the knowledge is him. In other words, Hu HaMada, he is the knowledge, Hu HaYodeya, he's the one who knows that knowledge. And when a person is able to know the yedios, the knowledge of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? So that knowledge is the Ribono Shalom himself. So once again, you can take a look at any guy that's there. Let's call it HaTanya for a second, right? So I can say HaTanya has a lot of things that he knows in his mind, a lot of skills, a lot of things, a lot of Torah, a lot of whatever it is, right? But in theory, on a human level, right, you could differentiate. There's HaTanya, and then there's all the stuff that he knows, or the stuff that he knows how to do. The Ribono Shalom is not like that. The Chachma of a Kadosh Baruch Hu is the Ribono Shalom, and the Ribono Shalom is that Chachma. Now, the problem is, just backtracking even more right now, is that the Ribono Shalom is so sublime, right? Is so divine, because that's what he is. He's God. Is so God that me, as like a frail, mortal, lowly human being, the truth is, I can't understand all that, deep, things. A human being can't. Again, the expression the Zohar Kodesh uses many times, less machshav tfisa bey, a person's mind can't possibly grasp on to the essence of the Ribono Shel Olam. The favor that Hashem did for us is that he said, but you know what? I'm going to constrict all of that depth that I have, right? And give myself to you in a series of Divrei Torah, in a book, a body of knowledge called the Torah that we're receiving on Shavuos time. It's Man Matan Torah Seino. And if you're able to understand that, right, that in your position, right, as a human being created by me, you are going to be the most attached to me and understand me. But again, understanding me means by definition attached to me, being with me, that any creature could possibly have. And when I sit down to learn LiShma, and I'm sitting down to learn with the understanding of I want to be able to get that connection to the Ribono Shel Olam that's found and enclosed in the Divrei Torah that I'm sitting down and learning right now. And that's a passage that he writes, like we said, in the Sefer of the HaTanya. The Baal HaTanya also has other svarim that he wrote. One of the svarim that he wrote in Chumash is called the Likutei Torah. So I'm going to quote some of Parshas Bahar from a few weeks back. The Torah is the Chachma and the Ratzon of Hashem. Like we just explained, he and his Chachma are one. There were so many, the Baal HaTanya says, constrictions of the depth and the pristine quality, pure quality of the Ribono Shel Olam until he, with a capital H, is able to be perceived in this world. So we don't necessarily appreciate, I'm going to use now the Baal HaTanya's words in the Kudei Torah, we don't have the inyan hatainog b'seichel elokus. We don't necessarily appreciate and enjoy the divinity that's there. Ki'im dinim v'halachos b'inyanim gashmim. We, who are engaged in learning, are seeing the dinim and the halachos that seem to just be very, very physical, mundane kinds of things. So again, coming back to the example from Ksubas Daf Yud Beis, I'm talking about Ruvain saying manuli biyadecha. Shimon says ein lecha, ein yodeya. And then we're going to have a whole debate: is a bari v'shema bari adif, and what's a bari, what's a bari tov, and what's a bari garua, and a shema garua, and all of this. And I'm talking about random, mundane, regular kinds of things. I can be learning perak elu treifos and Masechta Chulin about what constitutes a fatal disease on a lung of an animal, and I'm going to be sitting, if I'm learning the perak correctly, opening up animals, really, but if not, at least picture books, and learning about the biology and anatomy of how the animal works, this kind of animal, that kind of, to determine the ilchos treifos. And this seems to be nothing to do with these deep penetrating secrets and insights into divinity and the mysteries of creation and the universe and so on and so forth. And as the Baal HaTanya explains, that's right, because we, right, as human beings, don't have the ability to have that level of depth of a perception, right? So the only thing we can perceive is how the Ribono Shel Olam took what we believe is all that depth of perception, constricted it and concealed it into certain human halachos that we deal with here in this world. Okay, and when we learn those things, what we have to once again know and believe is really going on is that beneath the surface, when I learn Chezkas Mammon, and I learn Bari V'Shem, and I learn Ger Katan, or Pesach Pesuach Matzasi, right? And he says that Tainas Damim, and it's a Tainas this, is he a Baki Bata, all these kind of things which don't really seem to be so holy and divine, and so on and so forth. But I know and I believe that what I'm really doing, right, is touching upon some seichel and chachma of the Ribono Shel Olam, giving myself the ultimate devekas with Hashem. And when I sit down to learn, my focus and my mindset has to be, I want this to be the vehicle through which I attach myself to the Ribono Shel Olam. And the greater my kesher to the Torah, the greater my devekas with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the way the idea of Torah LiShma works according to the Baal HaTanya. And like I said before, the truth be told, he's not the only one who speaks about that idea. It's something that many of the earlier Sifrei Chasidus explain as well. I'm going to quote now from the Toldos. We mentioned the name of that sefer before, the Toldos Yankiv Yosef, and he writes as follows. This is found in Parashas V'Eschanan Oz Lamed Vav. The Toldos writes, Kibalti Mimori, I received from my teacher, from the Baal Shem Tov, Iker Esek HaTorah Tefillah Sheyad B'Ges Atzmal Pinimius Ruchnius Or Ein Sof Shebetoch Osios HaTorah. The main idea is that I want to connect myself to the inner spiritual light that's there in the words of Torah. Shihu Nikra Lima LiShma, and that's what we call learning LiShma. I sit down to learn, and the idea is, right now I can gain a devekos with a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if I'm thinking about and planning out and interested in every sugya that I'm learning, every balat I'm learning, every whatever that halacha that I'm learning, devekos with Hashem, this connects me to a Kadosh Baruch Hu by understanding this Torah. That's called Limud Torah on a LiShma level. Some point out, it's brought in some Chassidish from a very cute point. We speak about the idea of being korei b'Torah. You read the psukim of the Torah, okay? A mikra megillah, and so on and so forth. So they point out the word korei, which means to read, okay? But let's remind ourselves back in our old pan days, when we thought maybe we spoke Hebrew better than we actually could. When I want to call somebody, like not phone call, but when I want to say, hey, you, what's the word I use? Correct. Exactly. Okay, likro. Okay, likro lo. Tikra lo. Tikra. When I call that guy over here for a second. So some point out that that's a very, as always in Lashon HaKodesh, a very, very significant connection that's there. Because when I'm reading Korei B'Torah, I'm also calling or summoning the Ribono Shel Olam over to me. Because again, as the Baal HaTanya is explaining to us over here, the Iker, right, of Torah, the Torah LiShma part of Torah, is the idea of I'm doing this once again l'shem that devekos and l'shem that connection with the Ribono Shel Olam. That's the opinion, the idea that's there in the Baal HaTanya. Now, Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner in the Nefesh HaChaim, we're going to jump a little bit. I'm just also keeping an eye on the clock because I want to step into the next year's time zone here, which I have a tendency to do. So I'm going to try not to do that now. So the next part, we're going to speak a little bit now about the idea of what Torah LiShma meant according to the Nefesh HaChaim. It's a very, very different idea. Okay, and I want to lay out some of the beginnings. This is all found in what's called Shar Dalid of the Nefesh HaChaim. Okay, the Shar Dalid of Nefesh HaChaim is devoted to the subject of Torah, of learning Torah. It's incredibly important. Even if you're not so knowledgeable in the entirety of the Nefesh HaChaim, the Shar Dalid, the truth stands by itself. It's much easier to read and to understand than the other parts of the Nefesh HaChaim, and it's a classic thing that any ben yeshiva should be aware about and get to know a little bit. So the Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner starts off in the Shar Dalid, where I'm actually going to read now from Perek Beis. Actually, he has an introduction. I'm going to start from Perek Beis. I'm going to read a couple of lines over here. He says, Ein LiShma ein pirusho devekos k'mo shesovrim ata rov ha'olam. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, okay, and this is what we call starting off with a punch, like a mamash, like a straight to the jaw. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, learning LiShma does not mean learning for the sake of gaining devekos with Hashem, like everyone out there thinks. In other words, he was taking a jab at the fact that Hasidus was something that was getting very popular and spreading and growing. He says, and no, that's actually not true. Okay, and Nefesh HaChaim says, and I'll explain to you why. Right? How do we know that? Harry Amru, again, we're still going to put things on an Elo level. When we're done right now, I just want to present the ideas that are found in Nefesh HaChaim. Harry Amru Chazal b'Medrash, it says in the Medrash Shocher Tov, Bikesh David HaMelech alav Hashem lefanav Yisbarach. David HaMelech asked Hashem. The Medrash says, David asked Hashem, Sha'osik b'Tehillim yechashiv etzlo ki'ilo haya osik b'negam v'ohalos. David HaMelech had a request from Hashem. This was his second request. There was Achash Shu'alti, and this is the other request that David HaMelech had, which was, please Hashem, I just wrote an unbelievably inspirational sefer called Sefer Tehillim, and could it please be that someone who says Tehillim with fervor and and emotion, that saying the Tehillim should be considered to you on the same level as a person who's involved in the difficult mesechtos of Negalim and Oalos. Says the Nefesh Chaim, that's a medrash. Says Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner, Harei she'esik v'hilchas hashaz b'iyun v'yagia hu inyan yoser na'le v'ov l'fan of Yisbarach me'amiras Tehillim. So first of all, the Nefesh Chaim says, you see from that medrash that David HaMelech understood, right, that with all of the devekos that saying Tehillim can bring about, a person's feeling connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, feeling on a high, feeling spiritual, etc. But David HaMelech turned to Rebbeinu Shalom and said, Hashem, could you consider it? Could you make it right that Tehillim experience, okay, could be the same as learning the hard Masechtos and Shas? Says Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner, you see that David understood that learning the hard Masechtos, that's like a real madriga, right? And the devekos that you would get from saying Tehillim, that's lesser. So David says, right, could we equate the two? Later on, we're not going to read it today, but later on, Chaim Vohlozhiner points out with a very interesting, eye on reading things critically, that the medrash is very interesting because it doesn't record to us what a Kadosh Baruch Hu's answer was. Because it doesn't say that Hashem said, yeah, Tehillim, that's like really, really good. Say Tehillim and like get the vekas and feel good and feel spiritual, feel on a high, and like that's the same as learning Negam V'olos. No, it doesn't say that in the medrash. David asked that should be true. We have no idea, right? So we do see that the value on a value scale, right? The Negam and Olos are greater than the Tehillim, right? What we're going to call right now the Yegiya, the effort in the learning, is better than the Devekas from the Tehillim, right? And we don't know that Kadosh Baruch Hu, changed that example. If we actually felt that learning the Shema meant learning for the sake of Devekas, listen carefully to what he argues next. And Devekas was the whole goal of learning. So he says, there will be no greater Devekas experience that you could get than by saying Tehillim all day long. Now, can you imagine? I always have this image in my mind. This is what I like to do sometimes. If I have the time, if you remember earlier we went to En Gedi. So En Gedi is where David HaMelech was hiding from Shaul HaMelech. He wrote many prakim of Tehillim in the beautiful oasis of En Gedi. So I always enjoy, if you go to to one of those waterfalls, and just you sit with the Tehillim for a little bit out there in nature on some mountain. It's beautiful. It's inspirational. It's great. To be able to do. I'm enjoying right now the outdoor minyanim that we make because it's very nice to daven with trees and you see the sky like that. Lorenzo Schreiber Five Mendelovich was just staring at the window in shul, staring up at the sky, and someone said, "Why don't you what are you looking at?" So I'm davening from up there. I'm reading the siddur that's up there in the Shemayim. Right? So there's a lot to be said for that. There's no greater devekas than that. But nevertheless, David HaMelech understood. But that's not what a Kadosh Baruch Hu really wants. He wants the negam and olas. Says the Nefesh Chaim. He says v'gam ki hayadai le'inin devekas b'mesechta achas o perek o mishnah achas sheyasuk ba kol yom b'devekas. And after all, Chaim Vohlozhiner says, if my goal was just to have devekas with Hashem, right, it also should be true. He makes a very interesting argument. It also should be true that if I took one mesechta, right, or one perek, let's change, or one mishnah, as he says, right, and I read it over and over and over and over and over again. I just keep saying, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, and I just knew that every time I grasped that line, Bari Adif, and I say Bari Tov and Shema Garua, and I know that psak, and I got the idea of, now I know the Chachma of Hashem. So now I'm attached to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Now I have Devekos. So says Chaim Vohlozhiner, why would there ever be a need to learn more than that? Just say over your daf every single day, say over your Mishnah all day long, right? Now some of us are probably saying, that would be great. I could come to yeshiva, right? Just get the first Mishnah down pat in Ksubis or Bab Mitzi, whatever Mishnah is, and just say that all day long. And I totally show you, I'm getting Devekos. My mind is connected to that chachma that's there of Hashem, just like the Baal HaTanya wrote. Now, he says, how do I know that that's not true? Like, maybe that's a good idea. So change the whole concept. But come to Yishrei, Elozman Tufshin Pei, right? And we're going to learn first Amud and Bav Mitzi, and then we're just going to have Devekas time. We're just going to keep saying it over. We're going to get it really, really, really clear. We're going to know it really well. repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over and over, right? Even more times than Ari Greenwald has done. We're going to really keep saying it, and right, we're going to have Devekas with Hashem now. So we would say, oh, great, I got it made. How do we know that's natural? This is, first of all, let's look at the way Chazal related to what a person should know. What's considered impressive, right? So it quotes the Gemara in Sukkah Daf Kaf Ches. He quotes, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai lo yiniach mikra mishnah halacha v'agada. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai knew everything there was to know in Torah. Halacha, mishnah, agada, and it gives a whole long list of all the different parts of Torah that are there. He quotes a medrash. Borei kamakashi yom hadin. By the way, the Chavetz Chaim in the Bir Halacha in the second chelik of the Mishnah quotes this Chazal also. Now this is a little scary, I got to admit. Okay, so like it's okay to be scared every once in a while. Says the Chazal. Again, it's cited in Perek Beis of Shardal and Nefesh Chaim, and also in the Mishnah Berurah. Borei kamakashi yom hadin. Take a look at how difficult the Yom Adin is going to be for people. Also, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to judge the world. But one guy who comes and he's the Chumash guy. He knows Chumash like really, really well. Mishnah he doesn't know, but he knows he got Chumash down pat. Kadosh Baruch Hu hofech haspana mimenu metzeder Gehenim es gabrim. Kadosh Baruch Hu turns his face against that guy, and the pangs of Gehenim are going to overtake it. That guy. So, plain and simple. That doesn't sound good. Okay, so being the Chumash guy, that's not where it's at. Hey, notum so much lichamos again. They take that person, slam dunk him straight to Gehenna. Then you have a guy who what I always call nice and yeshivish. He knows 2 or 3 starm of shas, nashim, nezikin. I would throw in moed just for fun. Okay, the parts that everyone learns. Kadosh Baruch Hu omer lebeni kol halachos laman lo shaniza. My son, there's a million halachos. Why don't you know anything? So you're really holding above mitzvah. That's really great. You're a lamdit. You don't know anything. Halacha. But the halachas. Then you have a guy who knows halacha. He did Mishnah Berurah Yomi every day. Passed all right pilots, Mishnah Berurah things. All the halakha Mishnah, all the chelkei shulchan halacha. He has a cold. Did you ever learn the Torah's Kohanim, the Midrashim on Sefer Vayikra? Do you know Seder Kachim, all the dinim of the Karbanos? And then the guy who knows Seder Kachim, a real brisker, comes, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, hello, do you know Chumash and Rashi? Do you know any basics? Do you know Tanakh? Well, what about that part? Okay? And then you have a guy who knows the Sdarim, and he knows the Kachim, and Hashem says to him, did you ever learn Agadata? Do you know anything about Machshava and Musar and all the Agadata parts, or those are the parts that you skipped over because it's only Agadata and it's not so important? So I didn't bother learning the Agadatas with the Marshas and the Marals and the Gra. Did you know that? And so on and so forth. It says Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner. Okay, so now let's understand something. Why is the Rebbeinu Shalom going to hold a person accountable? I'm going to say it in our terms. We're not trying to know everything. We can't know it all by tomorrow, obviously, right? But we want to sit down and say, I want to try to know all that. I want to learn all the Masechtas. I want to learn all the Chumash. I want to learn all the Halacha. I want to learn all the Tanakh. We're trying to do that all, right? We even have Machshava Shiurim and issue. We have all that. We got it all, right? But why is that important? Why not just say, I'm going to learn one thing. I'm going to repeat it over and over and over again. And I'll know that. And I'll have Devekas. If all my goal is to attach myself to the infinite God through Torah, just take one piece of Torah and just stick to that. And then now, the not so intelligent response to that, which some people say, sometimes some of my kids say, but it's really like, hopefully you'll chop why this is not so smart. Some people say, well, because that's not so much fun. I don't know, I can really stay all day long and learn one Amud Gemara, that would be boring. I don't have a whole year in Yeshiva. Then I got Shana Bet, and I got Shana Gimel even, and then I go on to why you were Landers, and I'm learning in the morning and at night. I have the same block Gemara over and over again for the next 17 years. That's not fun. So you got to spice it up a little bit. You got to throw in some other things to keep you going. So I hope you understand, right, that can't be the reason why, right, the Rebbeinu Shalom holds us accountable to try our best to know it all. Chaim Vohlozhiner continues, and let me point out one other problem with the Devekos theory. That's discussed. Says Chaim Vohlozhiner, he says, you know what? When you're learning Divrei Torah and you really want to learn it well, he says, You have to do your utmost and put in an incredible amount of effort and work to deeply understand all of the gashmios concepts that are found in learning. So he gives examples, right? You're learning Masechta Nida, Pischei Nida, okay? These two examples are very important that he gives. And you're learning all the different dinim about different complicated types of issues that come about, how to regulate some of the halachos and hilchos Nida. This has nothing to do with, again, feeling holy and spiritual and devekosi and ruchnias. These are like very, very basic topics that, when you were in sixth grade, they try to not talk about because like you're not mature enough like to know those things and all that stuff. But that's what Divrei Torah is supposed to be all about. You learn Masechta Kinim. I don't know if you're familiar with Masechta. Masechta Kinim is one of the hardest Masechtas in Shas. When any person is chayiv to bring a pair of birds, Kinim, a chatas and an ola, right, for yoledes, for a zava, etc., etc. So the entire Masechta speaks about what happens when you have different kinim, different pairs of a chatas and an ola that are together in a cage, and they start flying all over the place like birds tend to do. And now you're not sure out of the, let's say, 15 birds, 18 birds in front of me that I have, how many chatos, olos, which one was which, and how do I know how to be makrib? And the entire Masechta is all different kinds of mathematical formula, how to determine what you're allowed to use as a chatas and ola when you have all this total mass confusion about X amount of birds that are there in your cage, or when the bird goes flying out of the nest and you lose one, and now what do I do, and so on. Tons of variables. It's incredibly hard, even if you're a PhD in mathematics. It's very difficult to understand. And says Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner, you're going to tell me that I'm sitting there breaking my head and trying to understand all the formula that are used in Masechta Kinim. That's called Dveikos. There's nothing, you don't walk away with a feeling of Dveikos, from that kind of learning at all. But says Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner, I'll tell you what Dveikos means. And he said, and it's a chazal. If you go back to that Gemara in Masechta Nedarim that we were just reading before, Daf Samach Beis, so the Gemara had said as follows. Find the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Elazar Reb Tzadok, Asay devarim l'shem po'ala. Do the mitzvos for the sake of their commander, the sake of their creator, who made them. Daber behem LiShma, and speak in Torah LiShma. Okay, now what does that mean? Explains the Rush. The Rush is one of the Masechta Nedarim is different than the other Masechtas. There's not an introduction to Nedarim. It doesn't have the regular Rashi Tosas that regular Masechtas do. The Ran and the Rush are like the Rashi Tosas on Masechta Nedarim. Explains the Rush for Daber behem LiShma, called Diburchu Mas'acha b'divrei Torah, Yihi l'shem HaTorah. Whenever you're learning, you should be learning. Listen to this formulation: l'shem HaTorah, for the purpose of Torah. Leida ulahavin ulahosiv lekachu pilpul, that you should know and understand and be able to discuss it even further. That's the Rush's definition of what learning Torah, the Shema, means. Now let's explain. Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner explains in Perek Gimel of the Nefesh HaChaim a little bit further what that concept of learning the Shema, and again, just to read the words again, the Shem HaTorah. You're learning for the Torah's sake. So he explains like this. He gives a little introduction first. I'm going to summarize a couple of prakim in a sentence or two. Says Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner, of course, when a person sits down to learn, right, Yira Shamayim and being a person of solid character is a prerequisite for learning. We understand that Talmud Torah is not just an intellectual activity, it's a spiritual activity. And without having the proper amount of Yira Shamayim, the Torah doesn't last. These are Mishnayos, right? Kol Shechachmaso, Meruba Meyuraso, so then it's not going to be Miskayim. You have to be a God-fearing person, Yira Shamayim. Person has to be a Baal Midos Tovas Derech Eretz, which is Kadma Torah. Now you need a lot of ingredients and prerequisites that are there. That's 100,000%. But as Reb Chaim Vohlozhiner explains, when the Chazal tell us LiShma, right, learn LiShma, and we're told that you're supposed to be learning the Shem HaTorah, okay? The idea behind that is, and this is actually a very, very difficult thing to be able to do, the idea behind it is as follows. My goal when I sit down to learn, and this is going to take a couple of times to explain because it actually has to seep in a bit. This is not easy. My goal when I sit down to learn, okay, is to know the Torah itself. It's a self-contained goal. I want to know the Divrei Torah. Okay? When we say I want to know the Divrei Torah, that means I have a vested interest, right, in making sure that I know as much of it as possible, that I know it as clearly as I possibly can, as deeply as I possibly can, and I got it. I know the Torah, the shame, the Torah. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants me to learn that I should master, with all of the implications of that word, master the Torah. Now, there's an aside thing, okay, that it's for sure true, and he goes on, explains in many, many prakim in the Nefesh HaChaim. It's for sure true that through learning Torah, a person gains an incredible dveikus with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. There's no greater way to have any kind of spiritual connections than Torah. The impact of learning Torah on the entire universe is more massive and more significant than anything else that a person could possibly endeavor in his life in this world. Torah is an incredibly potent, right, ruchnius thing. But at the moment when I sit down to learn, right, my goal, in other words, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is, your interest is, you got to make sure, right, that you know the Torah as best as you possibly can. Let me explain a little bit quickly, okay, where some of the what called nafkaminas, or some differences between these two ideas are going to be. Okay, danger. Okay? Danger, meaning when a person sits down to learn for the sake of gaining a dveikus with that, okay, we run the risk, there's a danger that a person might not make as much of an effort as he can to actually really understand and know what it is that he's learning. Right? I'm sitting down and learning, and I know if I read the words and I got the idea, it's a dveikus with Hashem. Let's create a slightly different scenario. I even do the famous Gemara sing-song tune that's there, or I sing like my favorite nigun to whatever Gemara that I'm learning. And I'm getting myself to like be in one of these moods. I'm feeling it. I'm on a high right now when I'm learning. Right? But if you stop the guy and say, can you repeat over to me the blat that you learned? What was Rashi's kasha? Why did Tosas argue on Rashi? What was the diuk that caused the Rashba to have a third shita in the Gemara? And the guy says, what? Like, what are you talking about? Oh, I didn't notice that in Rashi. I didn't see that diuk in the Tosas, right? So I thought that I was, I'm on a high when I'm learning, because I'm learning and I'm feeling good, right? So the danger that a person runs, right, the risk that he's running when he learns for the dveikus idea, right, is I might be more concerned with the emotional and spiritual experience than the actual yediyah in the Torah that I'm learning. Now, if a person is learning the way Chaim Vohlozhiner explains, l'shem HaTorah, right? That, I'm really just trying to highlight what his ideal was, what the Rosh is explaining to us here. At l'shem HaTorah comes and says, well, listen, my friend, right? If you want any of the things that Torah is supposed to do to actually take effect, you have to make sure that your goal in your learning is to actually get the greatest degree of clarity that you can possibly get in your learning. Yes, you want to make sure you know all. I'm going to say a classic example, just to make us all feel guilty, myself included. Let's say you're sitting down and you're learning even Chumash level, right? You're learning Chumash and Rashi, and you get up to one of those grammar Rashis that are there, right? The Rashi where he gives all those like examples of like the word means this and the root is this and blah, 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 and all of there. So if you're normal, right, you gloss over that. Right? Okay, grammar and stuff like that. If you're learning LiShma, because I want to know the Torah, right? And for some reason that's there, and that's something that the Rishonim felt was important to explain to us, then I want to know that, right? I want to make sure I got that. When there's a really, really long Tosfos that's there, and it seems like, I don't know, it sounds like just bringing a 75 rayas like to something, and I can, let me just get to the point. I'll skim it, and I'll get down to the B'gei Shlomer, right? I'll cheat. I'll use Ray Gordon's Gemara. I'll find the blue underline on the important part in that thing over there. Okay, right? But I'm not knowing the Torah anymore, right? And so when I'm learning the Shema, the reason why it's so challenging to learn the Shema is because when a person says, I actually want to appreciate that every morsel of Torah is so significant. Every morsel of Torah is so important. I'm going to try to make a little bit of a bridge between these two approaches. It's also significant, also important because of all the things that Torah can bring. But when I appreciate how every little bit is major and every little bit is significant, I don't want to leave over any little bit of Torah that I wasn't able to learn. I want to make sure that I know it all. I want to have it all down pat and as perfect as I possibly can. Right? So if I make the Siyam on Masechta Ksubas, I'm going to say Hadronov. I want to learn it again afterwards because there might be parts that I don't know so well, right? And I'm going to feel a simcha when I get a greater understanding of that Torah. Is it also true that part of that process will, in some level, lead me to a sense of devekas, like 100%, right? But the Torah LiShma is, and to use the quote from the Rush again, L'Shem HaTorah. And that's why all those chazals that we read before come along and tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want you to try to know it all. I want you to learn Nashim, Nezikin, and Moed, and Kachim, and Taros, and Zeraim, right? And I want you to eventually open up a Yerushalmi, and I want you to try and learn a Sifra, and a Sifrita, Mechilta, and a Teres Kohanim, and I want you to know a Medrash Rabbah, and I want you to know a Mechilta de Rabbi Yishmael, and a little Medrash Shocher Tov, and Tanchuma, we're pretty good too, and all the Reb Chaims, and all the Ksoses, and all the Shulchan Aruchs, and the Shachs and Tazes, and the Pri Megadims, and so on and so forth, and the Tanya, and the Baal Shem Tov, and Likutei Moharan. You should know it all, right? But your goal, right, is if there's Torah that's out there, I want to know that, right? Because the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, and the Torah LiShma, is not just the experience that Torah brings, right? But it's the quest of a complete and perfect knowledge of the Divrei Torah. And that's a challenge to sit down and try to learn. And the truth is, in either one of these two kinds of styles that we were just discussing, but those are the two basic approaches that are found in different schools of thought that exist. Now, of course, Chaim Vohlozhiner points out there's a danger in losing track of what Torah LiShma is according to him also, right? Because if a person is only taking a very limited view and understanding of that concept of Torah LiShma, you also run the risk of learning Torah just as an intellectual thing. I want to try to know it. So I'm going to know something. But if you're not, and he goes on and on and on, if you're not understanding that you need the Yiras Shamayim and the Derech Eretz to be able to receive the divine Chachma of Torah, then you're going to miss out on all. The Torah is not going to last. So you can't lose track of the fact that Torah is a Ruchnius endeavor. That's 100% true, right? But the question is, when I sit down to learn, what is my mindset? What should I be trying to do right now in terms of my approach, my thought process when it comes to the learning? I'm going to pause over here. If there are any questions, well, the next year is at 11:15 or like 11? No,
11:15.
11:15.
15. And they know I schedule like that because I know I was going first, and I need a buffer zone over here. So are there for the next 5 seconds like that, but not more than that. I mean, not more than 5 minutes. I mean, there should be a little break. Question of what we just spoke about, or are we all good to go? Good to go. Okay. So we're going to press a pause on the recording over here also.